at Homies, and we did our first podcast here today with Kelley, the owner. Got so much of her story about how this place came to be, the generational stories of Manhattan Beach. She grew up here. Loved talking to her about old Manhattan Beach, coming to modern day Manhattan Beach, and this space. Come see it if you haven't. It's amazing. It's homey. Talked about raising kids. We talked about when struggles happen early in a business. We talked about doubting yourself, pushing through that. So much initiative. She's a woman with a huge amount of initiative and purpose and drive. And she used to be an oncology nurse, a pediatric oncology nurse. I mean, the stories that people have that you don't even know are there until you ask, that's what I'm so fascinated with. That's where the generational learning comes in. She's raising a 17-year-old son. I have an almost 17-year-old son. There's just so many things that we connected on. And she was a joy to talk to. We want to do it again and cover, I don't know, you're just too, it's so strange. Like, you don't even know you have things in common with people until you ask. And yeah, we could have sat and talked all day. So if you haven't checked out Homies, come in. The food's great. The atmosphere is amazing. Beer and wine, best cappuccinos. It's fabulous. And you can shop too. It's just the cutest sourcing of like just stuff you want in your home, hoodies, everything. So yeah, come in, check out Homies, and what a great spot. So where I start, I walked by your restaurant, like, I want to say 3 months ago, because I was asking the guy at the front, when did you open? He said about 6 months ago. And about 3 months ago, I walked by and I was like, what's that? That's so cute. Oh my gosh, I want to try that. Well, like 2 days later, I hired Abe. And we were sitting in my kitchen talking and kind of hashing things out. I'm like, let's go get some lunch. I'm like, oh, I know where we're going. So we walk down here.
Okay.
We have lunch. I'm like, this place is awesome. I go, I just walked by it and I just had this feeling, like I wanted to go there. And I don't even eat out that much.
Okay.
And so I bring him in and he's like, oh yeah, this is the best. Like, when we leave and I feel so good. I feel good when I eat there. Like, I feel healthy and food is amazing. And so he just keeps, you know. So then he starts coming back every day, right?
Yeah.
And I go, I know, I just have this feeling about that place. And it's kind of how I live my life. Like, I'm really learning to trust my intuition. So I keep my eyes open and I'm like, oh, and I feel like there's a story in everything. And I'm a storyteller. So what I've learned is I'm really after generational learning. Like how we tell our stories, the things that scare us, the things that inspire us, and how we impart that to like the generations below us, because there's so much to learn, right? And yeah, you learn through experience, and some things you do need to experience on your own. Yeah. But I feel like the more we tell our stories, you know, we can kind of hash out some of the yucky stuff, or help people not make the same mistakes we made, or you know, feel inspired by our bravery, or you know, all of those things. So, like I said, I feel like I was just pulled in here, and I would love to know your story.
Well, that means a lot to me just in and of itself, because this was, well, we'll go back to the beginning, I guess, because it's a kind of a strange way that I got to actually do this. I grew up just a couple blocks away from here. My mom still lives in the house I grew up on 13th and Manhattan Avenue. And I might have been 14, and I lied about my age and went down to this brand new little delicatessen and got a job.
Love it.
So the delicatessen was called Talia's, and it is where Fishing with Dynamite is right now. So I grew up literally a block and a half from there. So I lied and said I was older than I was, and I got hired to deliver sandwiches. So I had a little bike beach cruiser, put the sandwiches in the basket, and deliver them to anybody who had called in an order that day. And it was downtown merchants who would order from the deli, not to get a lunch break, so they would need their sandwich delivered. So that was like my first job, and I was like, oh, this is so cute, this little restaurant deli thing. About a year later, it burned down. And I lost my job, and I went on to obviously do other things. And then when the owner rebuilt it, he opened it as a restaurant. marching back down there again and said, I want to work for you again. So he hired me as a hostess. I became a waitress. I then moved into be a manager. I kept this job for years and years and years. And through finished high school, into junior high, into the JC college here in the local El Camino College. And I was working with a couple of waitresses one night, and they were studying. We used to bring our books to school. To work with us, so if it was slow, you could study. And they were studying nursing, and I'm like, that looks kind of interesting, like these anatomy textbooks and whatnot.
Yeah.
So, without any further thought than that, I decided to be a nurse. Like, no other compelling thought came to me other than their textbooks looked more interesting than mine.
Okay. And what were you studying at the time? Like, when you say more interesting than mine, what?
Maybe something like English. I wouldn't even know. I was at like a
like
junior college level, and I was
doing
so
what I was
unfocused.
told, right?
It was really. I was raised by a single mom. My older sister had moved away. I didn't have a lot of direction.
Sounds like you had a lot of initiative.
I had some initiative, I'll say that, but I didn't have a focus. I just knew that I should continue with education, but I just didn't have my place yet.
Okay.
So, started at the nursing program.
Which they have a great nursing program.
They have a great nursing program. And then at that point, I moved out. I was living with roommates, needed a little more income, left the restaurant, went into work. I think I worked at a grocery store, to be honest with you, and just for full-time with benefits and whatnot. So now I'm about 18, 19 years old. Studying nursing, but only trying to get the prerequisites done.
Okay.
And so that was just taking a little bit longer than I thought because I worked full time.
Yeah.
Finally finished that, applied to Cal State Long Beach, and got into their nursing program.
Okay.
The person who owned Talia's was opening a new restaurant, which is currently still in town, called Mangiamo.
Oh, sure. Okay.
So I went back to work for them again.
Okay.
And at that point, I was in nursing school full time during the day, and I would work as a waitress at night.
Okay.
So I'm back in the restaurant business again and again. From that job, I was asked to do a favor between the business owners of Mangiamo and a small pub called Urkeley's.
Okay.
Okay,
Sure.
so most everybody knows
Okay,
Urkeley's.
yeah.
Okay. So the man who owned Urkeley's was older, and he was having heart surgery, and he needed somebody to do his accounting during the day. Now, Urkeley's is a cash business, and it's an old school style, old school cash register. There's some room for. He used to do all of his own books. Let's just put it that way. And so there was a little bit of squiggle room for error or possible theft or whatnot.
Sure.
Now he knew me, and so he said, "Would you do me a favor while I'm in the hospital? Will you?"
So he trusted you.
Me? Will you help him do some accounting for me? And I was like, "Sure, I'll do that." That morphed into yet again another restaurant job.
Okay.
So. To help out, I was doing that part, and then I was also bartending there. There had never been a girl bartender in there. That is a man's domain in there. So that became a pretty funny job. I was a bartender in there with all. It was great. I loved them. They loved me. It's a multi-generational in there. You can see grandparents, parents, and kids.
Sure.
Everybody can make it in there. Yeah. As long as you're over 21, and there were many families here in town. So, working at Mangiamo, working at Urkeley's. Finished nursing school and decide I don't necessarily know if I want to be a nurse now.
Okay.
Because of this draw to the restaurant business.
Okay.
But a few years go by, and I like, okay, it's time to get serious and whatnot.
So you had that whole, and that stability, right? You were like, okay, if I went to school for it,
it's time to do it. It's time to do it.
Yeah, like
So I did. I started being a nurse. Left the restaurant business. Ended up, I was a nurse for 29 years, 19 of them at Children's Hospital in Los Angeles.
I've been there. I took my son there he had an MRI there.
Oh,
yeah.
okay. Wow.
Brain MRI. And,
Oh,
yeah.
Well, that's interesting. I am a brain tumor specialist, clinical nurse specialist in brain tumors, pediatric exclusively.
Oh.
I hope his MRI was fine.
Yeah, it
okay,
actually
good.
was. He's on
Okay.
the autism spectrum,
Okay.
so they do, you know,
Yeah.
not a lot of, most of the time stuff, it doesn't
Yeah.
really show up on an MRI,
Yeah.
but, you know, you don't leave any stone unturned. So,
Okay.
yeah.
So I started out. Was able to get a job there. I really wanted to work there. I'd been a nurse for about 10 years, and I really wanted to work there.
It's a magical place. I mean, if you
amazing.
you don't want to
Yeah.
be there, but like it's unreal. Yeah.
So I took a position on nights in the oncology unit of an area that most gals who go in pediatrics aren't drawn to.
Right.
They're like, well, wait, I want to take care of kids, but I want to take care of kids with cancer. That's not, it's too hard.
Yeah.
But I was fine with it. So, and it immediately stuck like glue. They're the most amazing patients.
Yeah.
The most. So 19 years I stayed doing that. I became a clinical nurse specialist in that area. And we worked predominantly towards the end of my career, the last 8 years of my career, I worked in research. We looked at phase 1 drugs for children who had run out of options with standard therapy.
For brain.
For brain tumors. So they had relapsed or the therapy had failed, and so we were looking at new alternative drugs. In pediatric research, things are watched very, very, very closely. So the studies are very tedious, and you must be completely dedicated to it. And so I enjoyed it. I specialized in it, and then I offered retirement. Decided to take it. I've been there a long time. I was getting tired, and I retired in January, and I lasted about 6 weeks in retirement. I got bored. 6 weeks.
Yeah, well, what do you do all day?
Like
right?
I'm 56 years old. I'm bored.
Yeah.
I don't, like I shouldn't be retired. And this crazy restaurant thing
Popped
came
back
back,
into your head.
came right back. Yep, popped in my head. I had been toying with it for a couple years. I would see little places and I would say I like that place, or ooh, I'd love to run a restaurant like that, or I'd see an empty location. I think wouldn't it be fun to own a cool restaurant in that place? Didn't do anything about it until this place became available. It was this place that
The
spiked my
location's
interest.
fantastic.
It is fantastic. It's one of the oldest places that I remember. This building that's morphed a little bit, but has a great history to it. So the history to this building is really fun. This used to be an auto garage, so an actual service garage. So these cement floors are the original floors.
Wow.
All that you can see the grease on them, and there's some patching in the back there where you actually would have been like the guy down in the pit where you're working, up and under a car. Those still exist there. They've been all patched.
Now you have all this beautiful stuff back there.
Where all those carts are used to be
Yeah.
oil. So this whole building was all these auto bays, and then across the street over there was an auto parts store. And this was at a time when
so
in Manhattan Beach,
different
there
Manhattan
would have
Beach.
been your shoe store, your hardware store, your auto store, your grocery store, your candy store, your card store. You name it, every single thing you needed was here
Every
in town.
store was one thing.
Was
Think
one
about
thing,
that.
exactly.
Like that's
There
mind-blowing.
was children's clothes, and then there was teen clothes, and then there was
I
adult
still
clothes.
remember that because I didn't grow up down here, but like that was so much my childhood
Yes.
in like Northern California,
Small
places,
town.
like, you had a children's shoe store. and that was it.
Exactly.
Like
In fact,
it's mind blowing.
I remember the names of them. I remember going to them. I remember this being auto garages and this being a really and there was a gas station on the corner, and this was like a whole enclosed little bubble
So
of
cool.
businesses that you didn't have to leave Manhattan Beach. Everything you needed was here. And since I grew up with a single mom, and it was just my sister and I, we were a little bit wild. We had a lot of freedom. My mom worked a lot, and we were supposed to take care of
Well,
ourselves.
given the fact that you said you told a lie and you get to get a job, like you're doing pretty well. That's all I have to know. But, I'm like,
just that
it's
one
a little
little
worse
fib.
out
no.
there these days, just so you know.
So anyway, I fondly remember this building. Now, the man who owns it and is the mechanic still has his garage right on the other side of this wall. He only works on vintage cars now. He has like 3 auto bays. Very select about what he works on. He's a great guy. Been around for decades. Had raised 4 sons here in Manhattan Beach. But he ended up leasing the apartment, the units overhead for small business. That was one of his first changes, and then changing the front into a small restaurant.
Okay.
It turned over a number of years. It's been many, many small restaurants. Unfortunately, not for whatever reason, not the right fit. Yeah.
Okay.
And then most recently was a surf shop. So this back area turned into a surf shop. The first change from really being the garages. And then the front, again, more of a surf shop, but the owner decided to add on a small cafe.
Okay.
And he was very limited. He only served a couple of items, specifically like a breakfast burrito, fresh poke, and coffee. That was it.
Okay.
He sort of followed the hours of surf, so he opened early in the morning, but he was closed every day by 3. I believe if the surf was good, he didn't even open at all. So,
It's a little rough on,
and that worked for the surf shop, but it didn't necessarily work for the cafe.
Sure.
And he's a great guy. He's still in town. He has since then moved his surf shop down closer to the beach. He has left the cafe business because that was not really his passion anyway.
Okay.
So this all came to me kind of just by knowing somebody who knew somebody who said he might be interested in moving.
Okay.
And I walked in here and I said, that's it. This is the place.
So you had the feeling.
I had the feeling right away, and I was like, oh no. Oh no, here we go.
No, more retirement.
Here we go. Things happened really fast.
So you said that was January?
So January I retired. So now we're in like, we're halfway through February. I find out about it in March.
Okay.
We're talking about taking over the lease. I'm starting to try to visualize how I would do a layout. I find out that I have to do retail, and it's a mixed use conditional use permit.
Okay.
So it's restaurant in the front, retail in the back.
Do you do all of the sourcing?
So this is all this.
You
Yeah.
you pick all
Yes.
the stuff.
Yes.
You're beautiful.
Thank you. This
I think
is
I
really
want
fun.
that. I've
really
asked for a
fun.
lot of permission over the years. I'm really, really big in that sign.
You might not need to do that anymore. So started to, the wheels started churning, and then the big deal was obviously what kind of food would I serve and who would cook it. That was really important.
Huge, right?
And how would I be different than what already exists in Manhattan Beach, which is a city I feel has great dining choices.
Absolutely.
A lot of high-end ones.
Yeah.
I didn't have the budget for that, and I didn't want to recreate the wheel here. I just, why would I open a fancy restaurant? It doesn't really have the bones of it anyway, but I've got Love and Salt, and we've got Arthur J, and we have Strand House and Mangiamo, and Pateris.
Lots of great choices.
Oh my gosh, I could go on and on and on. It's fabulous. And truly, between the Zislis group and the Sims group, those are restaurateurs. Those people understand restaurants, and they are doing a great job at running them. I was like, I think I need to open a cafe, and maybe the old way of what a cafe means. Where would you hang out?
And
What would you want to eat? Clean, fresh food, good coffee, beer and wine. Is there an audience for that? And the more I thought about it, and the more we sat and hashed it over, it came to me that this didn't exist here in town. As much as I think I knew the town over 56 years, I'm like, wait, I should do
I think
something
you
like
hit
this.
on something, because you do have an audience for this. Because like you say, the thing about your food is it's so good, and it's something. It's like something you could cook at home, but you don't.
So
because it's so clean, and it's like when you go out, often you feel heavy, and tired, and you eat here. It's like tastes fabulous, but you go on with your day.
You go on with your day.
Go home and take a nap. You're like
you're not like, you're gonna go on a diet tomorrow.
they can come back the next day like
They
you
did
did.
like it every day.
So
it's an honor
it
to
was-
serve him every day.
Yeah. Well, you hit on a concept, and
Yeah.
then what I loved is like you come in and you get your cappuccino, but then you keep walking
Yeah.
back. You're like, oh wait, I think I want to come back
Yeah.
at 5 o'clock.
Yeah.
Because you get to your
Yeah.
cute little wine bar, and you're like, oh, I could sit here
Yes.
too, you know?
And that's exactly.
And I
It
haven't done
just
that
started
yet, but
rolling
yeah.
with that, and so a mutual friend of my chef and I introduced us. I knew of him. We had a lot of mutual friends, and we had worked in the same places, and we were in the same industry, and in the restaurant business. So I talked to him, I met him, we clicked instantly. We decided to go for it. We sat down, we wrote a menu, and we decided we would serve virtually what you see. There wasn't a lot of changes to it. It was a menu that we would eat and our kids would eat, and that's how we decided to do
Okay.
it. Little
Yeah.
items.
Yeah.
It
And
was,
had he ever, did he come from the restaurant business?
yes,
Okay.
his whole life. Yeah.
Okay, okay.
Although this is his first true kitchen of his.
Okay.
So, which was important to me that I have somebody who was passionate but wasn't so experienced as being a chef that they were too expensive for me to
Sure.
afford. So,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? So I needed somebody who
Practical.
was, yes, and who was eager, but wasn't so seasoned that they were looking for a more intense kitchen than I could provide. So signed a lease, started to remodel it, not extensively, started to facelift it, I should say, and came up with the logo, which I get a lot of questions
Absolutely.
about. Yeah, so the word homie,
Yeah.
slightly controversial to some people, not to me.
You know, I hadn't thought of that. But I
Very
think, you know,
interesting.
we live in
I
a
hadn't
pretty
either initially.
polarized society, which I was like, 'cause
Yeah.
I try not to participate in, because honestly, the first
yeah.
thing I see is like when I walk in here, I'm like, it feels like my home. So I go straight
Yeah.
off of that. I never even
Yeah.
thought that.
So what's interesting though is that concept, that adjective of something being homey is spelled different than
right,
how I
it
spell
is,
homey.
but it's just in my mind that you're right.
And I was very similar to you, and then it was brought to my attention that my choice of how to spell homey was even potentially racist, which I took great offense to, and I said, no, I'm drawing the line right here.
Right.
Actually, then I dug my heels in. Then I knew I was going to name it homey
Okay.
because I said it's not
It's not.
what you are telling me
Right.
people
And I
do worry
think-
about. It's not that. It's a place. It's a feeling. It's friendship. It's comfort. It's something you're familiar with. It's a word that I started to look into it in the Urban Dictionary
Okay.
and in all kinds of sources. It goes back. It has military roots.
Oh, really?
It has roots in Europe. It has. It's an old word. It's been used in different ways. More recently, in like more of a cultural setting, but it still is a fantastic word. Almost everybody, you can translate that word instantly, and it makes you feel like it's your friend.
Right.
It is your friend.
I know.
So I was like, I'm doing
Good
it.
for you
I'm
for
doing
not,
it.
yeah, because
This
I
is-
do
yeah.
think we dig in on that
Oh,
polarizing,
yeah,
and
silly.
people get scared, right? They get
Yeah.
scared off, and then
Yeah.
it becomes what they're letting it become, right?
So I wanted the logo to be simple. I wanted to incorporate the name of Manhattan Beach because I kind of did a little peruse again and realized that we don't use our name in
Yeah.
very many of our businesses. And Manhattan Beach is on the map. It's not only on the California map. It's on the United States. It's global.
Sure.
Now. Manhattan
Yeah.
Beach is a global name now, and I didn't ever realize that.
Well, it has to be surreal coming from living
small
here your
town.
whole life. Yeah.
And so had someone design it, picked a font that I thought was fun and
Yeah.
old school, and came up with a couple of slogans to justify my word homie. So homie's not a place, it's a feeling was the one that
I
nailed.
love
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
Yeah. I think I took a picture of that the first time I came in
So
here.
that means a lot to me. And then let's see, started hiring people, started developing the concept of retail, which was to brand website to brand the word home, the logo, and
Yeah, I saw you have.
and
on
it's
the
going to
alley.
happen. And then we're
yeah.
going to get delivery after
Yeah,
delivery
yeah.
after delivery.
Yeah.
It's going to be crazy, but that's okay. Well, I'm sure he's a pro
Real
in
life.
editing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. He does. He spends lots of time doing that.
So passionate.
He is, and he's so like detailed. It's like
How'd you guys meet?
so. We had a mutual friend that I was starting my blog. And
Thank you.
Thank you so much. I was starting my blog and needed some help with like the logo. What did you help me with first? My logo and
then making the website.
Yes.
Actually creating
Yes.
the space for content.
So a mutual friend introduced you to it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Got it.
And then so we just did a little bit of work, and then it was just kind of a little contract thing, and then he
Right.
moved away, and we kind of kept in touch. Like you
kept
check in
yeah,
every once in a while.
Yeah, I moved to Houston, and I was living there. My sister has a new baby, so 9 months, and adorable. So I moved out there to be with family and reset my mind for a bit.
Yeah.
And during the time I was there, I did some work for you.
Yeah, and then I asked you for a couple other
Yeah.
things like logos and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And then you were coming back out. And
Yeah,
you
I was
said,
coming back
yeah,
out. I had 15 meetings planned out, like in sequence.
I didn't know this.
So I met her. I met with her, and we met at Jason's rooftop, and that was awesome. And I was like, you know what? I think this is it. I was like, I'm gonna work for you.
Yeah. And I was like, okay, I'm ready to jump.
Yeah.
Because that's a whole thing in itself, right?
Yeah.
It's like I realized like hiring him is me betting. I'm betting on myself.
Absolutely.
And that whole concept of like, wait, do I really have something that's like that I want to do versus just I love to write. So I started writing, thinking, even if I only give this to my kids, at least, and that's my whole concept. Of I dream that I will find like a journal of someone in my past, like my grandmother or somebody. I want to know the stories that I don't know. Like I want my kids to have my story.
Yeah.
So it started there, and then I just the more you write, you're like, okay. And then he would say, you got to do this and this. You know, to have somebody else say, no, you're onto something. You know, and it's not that you don't believe in yourself, but it's scary.
Oh yeah.
Right? I mean, to do all this, I mean, you had to lay there some nights and go, am I insane?
I
could have just been retired, right?
Well, or they'll be doing slow days and I'll think, oh, we're not gonna make it. Or I'll have someone come in.
This place is amazing.
So we'll have someone come in and they'll go, I'm worried about you. I saw this slow the other night. And I'm like, don't say that to me.
Yeah, I know.
Like, you're like, you're bugging my vibe. Like, there's gonna be slow days. I mean, I have to be my own cheerleader 99% of the time. But it's I've said this in some other setting. This is the hardest job I've ever had.
I believe
it. This is the hardest. I was pregnant and working in the emergency room, and this job's harder.
Really?
I had a toddler and I was working in the ICU. This job's harder. Like there is.
I have always said, because I watched some family friends who had a restaurant business in Fresno, like where we grew up going, and the whole family ran the business, right? The girls waitress, the mom and dad are in there every night, and the vibe is amazing because they love it so much.
Well, and they're committed.
Non-stop. Non-stop.
Like never. I don't. Well, first I have no days off, so that's a new kind of thing for me.
Because nursing, you have that very set schedule.
You have a very set schedule, and I'm a huge compartmentalizer. Like I used to do. I literally would do this thing in my head where I would be driving home from work. I did this almost every day, and I'd be coming down the 105, and I'd get to Vista Del Mar, and I could visualize if I'd had a really crappy day or something, some heaviness was lingering. I had a chest of drawers, and at the top were all these little drawers, and then at the bottom or in the middle was like a bigger drawer, and at the bottom were like huge drawers. So and so's medication error, and so and so's like discharge planning. All those were the little drawers, and I would just start to close those, and then the bigger drawers towards the bottom were my son, my home, my husband, and my mom, and I would pull the drawers out and I would think about that. I'd close the little drawers, open the big drawers. You're going home.
so good.
And it to me,
But that's what
I had
allowed
to
you to
define,
deal with that
compartmentalize. I had
stress.
to, yeah.
You know, when people say like, I don't want to do that job.
Yeah.
If you didn't have those skills,
Yeah.
you would have brought all that
It's
home.
that was a complete effort in survival.
Yeah.
I don't have a chest of drawers right now.
Okay.
Or if I do, every single drawer is open all day and all night long.
Do you think that's a function of your family? Like your kids grown now?
My son is 17 now.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. No, it's definitely a function of this. It's like having a new baby, and it's 24 hours a
24
day.
hours. You're in the tunnel. I always called it being in the
Yeah.
tunnel. When you had a baby, you're like, okay, head down. I'm not gonna sleep. I'm not like, I gotta get through this, and I will.
Yeah.
So
But it takes its toll on me sometimes.
Yeah.
I have obviously the foot wasn't planned, so
No.
that was a humongous
Yeah.
hiccup. Yeah.
Opening a new restaurant with a broken foot, like majorly broken foot.
Yeah.
And were you already open?
I was open 4 weeks to the day when I broke the foot.
Oh my gosh.
And then I had multiple hospitalizations. The last hospitalization, the one that I thought was the one that was which just took me to my knees. I was in the ICU for 16 days.
Oh my god.
In isolation. So because of the wound and the need to keep me in an environment where I could heal from this
Sterile,
infection.
right?
The fact that this little restaurant was able to run itself with this amazing staff
Wow.
and me inaccessible was
Good to know people have your back.
Yeah.
You got a good.
I mean, at that point, I was like, something has to change. I have to get healthy. I have to get healthy anyway, but the restaurant needs me, or it needs somebody, me, to be here. I can't keep asking the staff to fill every single crack that opens up, and every day there's something that comes up. Something breaks, something goes wrong, somebody's not happy about something, somebody needs to speak to somebody and make a decision. And one of the things that I pride myself on is being able to make decisions and then own them very quickly. Because you just have to.
You
otherwise
hit stagnation, and you have all these things open
and you never get
items,
anything done.
Yeah, absolutely.
Or people are surprised I don't have partners, and it isn't that I don't like working with people, but I think it dilutes the ability to make decisions. Then you have to confer with each other and agree to something.
Yeah.
And while I probably should have a manager at this point, there's still so much that I need to be in charge of as the owner. There's so many decisions that have to be made as the owner because they impact me, that I've decided that once it's up and running in a much better format, then I can step back a little bit. But it's going to be a year or two. Okay, I'm sorry, we have to stop.
He's super.
Are you kidding me?
Right?
Can we have a guest appearance? Wait.
Great concept.
Okay, well, you can't just walk away and act like you're not here. Okay, there he is.
Yep.
Is that
Ozzy?
Ozzy?
Get him,
Oh my God, look at you. Hey, you did it. That choice is made good. Bob Roy.
Look
at you. Nice ring.
I love the story.
Okay.
That's what I love.
His name's Bob Roy.
Okay.
He's owned a hair salon
I've
right on
seen
the
that
Beach Boulevard.
sign. Sure. Okay.
56 years. Next to Becker's Bakery, he is the oldest business in town, and he is, break my heart, retiring and closing the salon in January. December 31st, his last day. He's a legend. He is a 100%
Is he
the man.
selling it to someone?
No,
or
he just is retiring. Not to segue into unhappy stories, but it tied into this place kind of a little bit. Rent is atrocious in this town, and for merchants, it's really
especially in
really
Phoenix,
difficult.
right? I mean, how do you keep all these little independent shops?
And Manhattan Beach, I don't really understand the politics of controlling rent. I'd like to think that the city has some ability to negotiate with the people who own these buildings, but it would appear at the rate that rents have gone up and the rate that we've lost small business, that there is no control over it.
You do, and I've seen this other places because I have friends that own a restaurant in San Luis Obispo where I went to college. And when I moved to San Luis Obispo, and this was 25 years ago, there was not a chain store in town. No chain stores. There was actually a city ordinance, no chain stores. So the 4 years I was there, they softened it to some extent. By the time I left, there was a Gap. Yeah. There was a few big names. Barnes and Noble came in, Starbucks came in. And now these friends of mine from Fresno move over there, and they open a pizza parlor, right? And it's a great concept, but you know, it's not a big chain. And the way that the rents have gone up, you know, what's come in and made it very hard on them. Like they're fighting because now it's Pottery Barn, and not to say like we all shop at those places, but you lose the term, like the little downtowns, downtowns disappear. And we have the big chains, right? You can just go right up on PCH. You've got all these. If you need your big stuff, you can go get it. But I hate to lose like the little bookshops, the little, you know, the random T-shirt, like, you know, where are you going to find that stuff? And then you lose the stories.
Lose the stories. And he is a storyteller, if anything. He knows so much. He and I will often sit and talk about, remember Mrs. B's, which was this where you bought baby clothes. And then there was, remember the candy store, Joe's Candy Cottage. And we'll talk about things that we both remember. Bob's about 25 years older than me. And when he first started his salon, he was in his late 20s. And so he lived through crazy times in the 60s, 70s, 80s. And we're talking wild times down here. And he has fantastic stories.
See, and then you realize that people are where they're coming from. And once you know where someone's coming from, like, there's not so much this is right, this is wrong. Like, you have compassion for the story that, like, because good things come out of tough circumstances.
Absolutely.
And how do you know, you don't just live this, like, little perfect life without the stresses and the strains. Like, you don't get places like this. You don't. You know?
And granted, he has been telling me for the last a year that he's getting tired, and he does feel like he's certainly had his business been successful, been long enough. But I think the final decision was made because the rent's going up again. And that's so sad. And it's going up exponentially, not even a reasonable amount. I feel very fortunate here in that the man who owns this building, and we're here with Homie, he and I have negotiated a rent that's very fair. It's by no means cheap to be here, but it's fair. And he's a good man, and he won't raise it on me every year. In fact, I'd be surprised if he bothers it for a number of years. He wants this building to be occupied and be clean and be successful in Manhattan Beach.
Serving the public, and someone that he can trust, and the whole,
So, Bob will leave here, and it'll be a hole. It really will. It will be a loss on this street of most of all.
Right.
Well, it's interesting now. Supposedly there's a moratorium on real estate offices and banks because we have quite a few of those in town. I can't think of another business that could afford that storefront. If I told you what it would cost you, it's just shocking. On Manhattan Beach Boulevard, that's just coveted real estate. So I have no idea. Perhaps another restaurant, or bar, maybe. Wherever you can
truthfully,
make
right? You do have to have you almost have to have a full bar if you're paying a rent like that, right? Because food,
with
the margin on the food.
The margin on the food is barely negligible, to be honest with you. If I didn't have a beer and wine license, and with a beer and wine license it's a conditional license where it allows you to serve a certain amount of alcohol up to a certain percentage. So it's called a 41, this license. I have one. I bought one that existed in this establishment, but I had to purchase it. It allows me to serve any type of spirits that are up to 24% alcohol. So for
How did they
example,
come up
yeah, these random numbers.
Sorry.
So for example, if you want to drink a vodka and soda, vodka is about 40% alcohol, so they call it 80 proof, whatever.
Okay.
I'm allowed to have 24% alcohol, which is 48 proof. That's
Okay.
as high as I can go.
Okay.
So what I've done is I've found distributors that sell. There's a couple different versions of it, but most of them are based out of, it's a rice base,
Oh, sure.
almost like
Okay.
a sake.
I've seen
But
that.
there's a version of a vodka, a tequila, a bourbon, and they're delicious.
Okay.
They taste exactly like
Not
the
quite as
true alcohol.
strong.
They're just
Good
not
for
as
me.
strong. Fine for me
Yeah.
as well. So while I'm not serving a Belvedere on the rocks, because I can serve a specialty vodka drink. We have a couple of homemade drinks that
I
we
was
make
gonna
that
say,
are really
'cause
fun.
yeah,
We have a
yeah.
couple mixes. I could make you a vodka cranberry, and you'll love it. I
Yeah.
can make you a mimosa. You'll love that. So we have that capacity, and yes, that
Oh,
helps
your
in
life
the income.
experience. Like you do not get someone that makes who's a bartender, and then you go all the way to the oncology department and
And then you
them,
go
this is
all the
what
way
I'm
back.
talking about.
In
It's
fact, I could
amazing.
make a really good Bloody Mary.
Oh. Spicy?
Yes,
Yeah.
and we have a
that's
really
how I
great
like it.
secret recipe that we
Oh,
do. It's
okay.
fun with that.
Good to know.
But that it was something that was important to me
Yeah.
because that's how you're going to make it down
Yeah.
here. Is a combination of income. So my
Sure.
retail, my food, and then my alcohol. There's no question about it. That helps pay the bills. But I think so. We segued for a second there on the.
Ozzy threw us off.
I know
right?
Ozzy threw us off somehow. Anyway, I don't know. No, maybe we didn't forget anything. We got every.
No.
Where did we jump somewhere? Did we get interrupted?
I think it's been.
Is it
there's
flowing? Okay,
there's
okay.
continuity and everything.
Okay,
yeah.
good.
Yeah.
Because I thought I lost something and we were going to come back to it. I
So
know.
wait, it
Oh.
told me that you were saying there's a dinner that you signed up
Oh yeah.
for.
On,
Something
you said the
fancier.
5th of this. That special chef that's gonna come in.
Oh yes. So okay. So we of course experimenting with what works. Now this place is a slam dunk for breakfast and lunch. There is
So
we
good.
are on the map.
Yeah.
Every day
For sure.
we get a great crowd. I love it. We're open 7 days a week. 7 in the mornings. We get that kind of early coffee people on their way to work. We get
Yeah.
a nice breakfast group. We get a great lunch, and again a lot of locals, even a lot of merchants. This particular many different restaurants that it's been has never been super successful at night, and in fact some of them have not even been open at night. The one just previous to me
Yeah, because when you
was
actually,
not.
I mean, besides the kettle,
Yeah.
when you think
Yeah.
about this way,
Yeah.
people kind of stay.
Yeah. So Rockefeller is the only,
Okay.
Uncle Bill's, which of course is a daytime
Right.
restaurant. Then the Rockefeller, which is open, but they are very limited in their hours. And then you come along this way, and it's just the kettle.
Until you get.
And this was the most recent restaurant that this was. It was not a dinner run. He was
Okay.
never open at night.
Okay.
So that had been a couple of years, and I just think it got off people's radar.
Sure.
So reopening for nights has been a challenge, but we're building on it.
Okay.
The alcohol, of course,
Uh-huh.
helps. People want to have a glass of wine with dinner, and
Uh-huh.
I appreciate that. I do too.
Yeah.
But what I've been sort of open to is trying to create a space here for parties.
Events.
Even
Great
the
idea.
simplest thing, a book club,
Yeah.
chamber of commerce meeting, a private dinner party, a school event, you
Sure.
name it. So,
So
we
comfortable.
are, we've been entertaining a lot of ideas about like this. Now, being open 7 days a week has been tough on my chef, and he's been 100% committed to it, but we're coming up on 6 months of a brutal
days.
schedule, and I decided that he truly needs to not be here one full day, night, and part of the next day. He needs to not even physically be in the building. So we picked Mondays, and we're able to cover our day shift, and then we decided to close at night,
Okay.
since he really is the backbone of the dinner at this point. The dinners are delicious, and he's very committed to that quality. And then he has off on Tuesday mornings, but that left Monday nights as us being closed. at first I thought it was going to be fine because it seemed like
Sure.
we were quiet on Mondays, and then sure enough, the next thing you know, I got complaints. We came down last night, you weren't open. I heard you're not open on Mondays. What's going on?
Oh.
Da, 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 da. So rethinking it, a girlfriend of mine, I think it was a chef, said, I would love to cook dinner in your restaurant. She's a home chef, if you will. She doesn't actually have a restaurant job, but she's a trained chef.
Okay.
And she said, would you let me be a guest chef? And I went instantly. said
Brilliant.
yes.
Yes.
So we're doing our first one next Monday. She's Cambodian. She cooks absolutely wonderful Asian food. So her dinner, it's a preset menu, is very specifically is a spring roll in the beginning, a Vietnamese fresh spring roll. She's moving into a pho, like a Cambodian style / Vietnamese style noodle bowl, which should be delicious.
I love.
Szechuan garlic green beans, kind of a nod to more of a Chinese style. And then her dessert will be mochi, which is fun, little Asian ice cream balls. We're going to have a couple of really fun specific wines, beers picked out for that night. And we're going with more of a theme to the menu.
Okay.
She's not going to try to cook the homey menu.
Sure.
She wants the opportunity to cook her menu, and I want the opportunity to serve something different and see how the community responds to it. So we're trying that next week.
Okay.
We have a couple other ideas of other people who would like
That's
to
what
do
I was
the
going
same
to say.
thing.
So is it the idea that maybe you have a revolving Monday night?
Exactly.
And then that becomes, and if you publicize that, because people want to know, like, okay, you're coming for something different.
Exactly.
You come on Monday nights, you're coming for something different.
Exactly.
But
so we also, one of my food vendors, who's become a very dear friend of mine, who works for a large food distributor called Cisco. She moved here a few years ago from Chicago, and she told me that in Chicago they have supper clubs on Sunday night.
For sure.
And you will go to a place, you will make a reservation, go there, you have a very specific dining experience. It's the menu they've picked. There aren't choices. It's fixed price. It's fixed choices. Maybe one or two things you have to pick between. And people literally plan their schedules around, okay, on the third Sunday of the month we're going to be going to O'Brien's, and then on the first Sunday of the month we're going to go to whichever other tavern or restaurant is having a Sunday night dinner club. And she would like to help me build that here, and I think it would be fun. I don't think anybody has it in town, so I think it would be a blast.
And to get something different, like, this past Sunday night, and this was in my friend's home, but her husband's full-blooded Italian.
Oh.
And so, she lived in Italy for a long time. So she's American, but she's a very good Italian cook because she raised her kids over there. She lived there for a long time. And then now that they're back here, she zeroes in on Italian. She can see him from a mile. She's like, oh, there's an Italian over there. She'll walk right up, start speaking Italian. So she makes Italian friends. Well, the other night she said, come over, Luca's gonna cook dinner. And he came over full, like, this is a, 30-something-year-old guy, works at Mattel, but learned to cook in his kitchen, and, he was from Naples. Cooked most authentic risotto, his own focaccia, brought his dough into her kitchen, and it's like there's something about that because that, again, is part of the story, right?
Absolutely.
Somebody's bringing, he talks about his dad teaching him to cook, and how he does, what he does, and everyone's just hanging out.
That's the kind of story I'd love to meet that person and do that.
Right?
Yeah.
Because it's just,
and I think there's people out there like that. I do.
Yeah.
So I was getting, and my brain started tinkling a little bit when you said the reservation thing, because I think I could help you out with the website and getting that stuff done. So we can get it for next Monday.
Definitely will.
Having reservations or someone being able to book online, getting everything.
Yes.
It's not hard to make a list.
Because
this place is, space is limited, so it's like get it while it lasts, and then once it's done, it's done.
Exactly, and build that kind of buzz. Now, she and I talked about that because it's first time for both of us.
Right.
We've never done anything like this before, and I certainly have never done anything like this before. We would keep it exclusive to our friends, because out to the friend group that we have, a pretty good-sized group, but it wasn't it was about 25 people. She could probably handle 40, 45 is what she wants to cook for.
Right.
So now we were talking in the last few days, how do we get the word out, but keep it still kind of exclusive so her and I can iron out our kinks.
Right.
And I've been a little bit reticent to mention it to people because it needs to work. It needs to be professional.
Right. Yeah.
And I just,
like
if something
testing.
were to go wrong, it's not, I definitely can't just because they're good customers or regulars, I'm just not ready.
Sure.
So I think we're open to maybe 5-10 more people that we know, like if you guys want to come, like we'll test on you.
Okay.
But we're fine tuning the details of it.
Of course.
I need a little bit of help in this section in that. So for example, she's going to buy all the food herself, and then I will work it, and her sister will work it. So we won't have any labor costs because technically I'm closed. But for the price that she set, so she set it at $27 per person. So she's keeping the $27, and then the money that I would make would be off any of the alcohol that would sell. It's not the best deal for me, obviously.
Yeah.
I would like a per plate at least, something.
Yeah.
But I think we're really good friends. We hadn't worked that out. It's not going to be an area that I'm going to push on right at this point. But if it were something I would continue, I need to have a model for what works.
Yeah.
How other places do it.
Right.
If I'm going to have a guest chef, they definitely going to have to bring in their own food because I'm not going to have my kitchen order a whole group of ingredients they know nothing about or and aren't on our regular orders. So where do you cut the cost? Where do you so it's going to be a little bit tricky on this one, and because she wants to because that's how she's making the money. I can't even invite people and say this one's on the house, like just to beta test with me, as you said. So it's making it a little bit sticky, and I think it's going to be fun. I think it's going to be delicious. We just need to get through this first one and see how it actually flies.
So interesting that people say that you've heard complaints, which on one hand is a great thing because that means they love you.
I know,
But on the other hand, I would want to say my chef needs a rest. Like,
he's a person.
He's a human being. He needs to go home.
Yeah.
He needs to sleep for a night. He needs and then hopefully at some point those stories need to resonate too, because everyone needs a break.
Well, and I think a lot of really successful restaurants are closed on a quiet night.
Tuesdays. Yeah, exactly. Mondays or Tuesdays, and I can think of and fancy and not fancy.
Exactly.
All the way across the board.
It's almost like a break for everybody.
Right.
My entire staff, the place itself, the wear and tear,
you need to fix something.
and
you need to,
in fact, Monday night this week, we changed all these lights. We hung a bunch of pictures. He drilled in some walls. He had to fix some things. And I was like, thank goodness we're closed because we could not have done this while we were open. I was thinking, God, we're closed.
Yeah.
I mean, I can't get a handyman in here at 10 at night or before 7 in the morning.
No.
So it was like just a break for everybody.
Sure.
But I would love to do maybe every other Monday, something like that, where we do this fun chef experience.
Sure.
And so we'll get to it.
Yeah.
I think we'll get there. I hope it takes off. I think it would be
a good
fun.
idea.
And again, I don't think anybody's doing it in
I was
town.
gonna say, it's something
Chefs
new,
are pretty particular to their kitchens, and I'm
Oh,
guessing
for sure.
it's at least some of these nicer places are like, my chef would never let anybody cook in his own kitchen kind of thing. So, and yet there's a group of people who have no place to cook, but have the skill set to do it. So I have no problem letting them in there.
And they also have audiences as well.
Absolutely.
So it's a marketing technique as a whole.
Yeah.
I think it's a good idea.
I think we
stick
could
with
build
it.
on it. Yeah. We could even keep it as simple as just filling the front of the restaurant only seats 28, I think. Right? Yeah. Maybe high 20s, low 30s. That would be perfectly fine to do almost one seating at that.
Yeah.
2 at the absolute most. and never even have this seating.
Sure.
Just have access to the bathrooms, and that's it. Yeah. But yeah, I would love to develop that. I just need to pick people's brains and find out who knows more about it and who has good advice about it.
Awesome.
Well, I look
Yeah,
forward to
you'll be helping on that.
Yeah. Well, like I said, in my technical aspects, I'll help you with the technology part of it. It's not hard to get the booking system up online, especially because you have Squarespace and they already have integration. We can get like Open Table just for that little like small
One
time
night?
amount. Yeah, like the reservation amount. It's not gonna be It's not gonna be difficult.
Okay.
I think it's a simple setup. It's just talking about it and getting like I said, the idea is there.
Yeah.
And I think that's a good idea. It's
Yeah.
good enough to where like
Okay.
thinking of that concept is gonna be
And then
enough.
people know they're doing something different.
Yeah.
And that's what- it's
Exactly.
fun to come
Yeah.
out for something
Exactly.
different.
Exactly.
There's a novelty to like
Yeah,
the
absolutely.
guest restaurant every other Monday. Like you don't know what you're getting,
Yeah.
but like you're people love that.
Yeah.
Or if we even calendared like a month or two in advance where there's going to be Vietnamese night, and then there's going to be Italian night, and then there's going to be French night
Right.
or whatever, and then there's going to be like, a wine and cheese tasting night or something. I'd like to pair with
Oh, I
the little guy across the street at the cheese store.
Great, yeah.
And what would be really fun is, this is not my idea, this came from my beer distributor. Super dynamic guy, knows beer as if he was born drinking it. He's
We all
just
know that.
he's just an
Ton of fun,
encyclopedia of beer knowledge. He wants to do an event here where he comes in and a wine rep comes in, and I have I usually use pretty much almost exclusively one particular rep. I have a few wines from another one, but I have about 8 different wines from one particular company. He wants to do a challenge with the cheese. With the cheese store, we come in, bring in maybe 5 different cheeses, 5 or 6 cheeses, and then we pair them with a beer and a wine, and the people get to decide what does it taste better with, beer or wine. He goes, guarantee I can prove that beer tastes good with some cheeses better than wine.
Really?
And he said, and it will be a blast, and we'll tell them the whole history
sounds
of
really
how
fun.
this
See,
works.
that's something I'd like to come and
Wouldn't that be
film.
fun?
No, that would be
be really
amazing
fun
to
to
come
film.
make
Yeah.
a little
And that to me I can do for like a $25, $30 range too.
Yeah.
So that's kind of my target price. But I think that would be super fun, and
That'd be
no
so
one's done
fun.
anything like
That would
that.
be
Yeah,
so fun.
yeah.
And
I
that's
think
my
that would
favorite
sell
dinner, to be
out.
honest with you.
Oh.
I would just
I
rather
know.
have like a little appetizer
I was
plate
just
and a
saying.
glass of wine or
Well, and that would be
beer.
fun to do a tapas night,
That's it.
and
Yeah,
that-
just easy. Yeah, that
Yeah.
would be fun.
So I've got to come up with these ideas, and then just as we've been talking the whole time, just give it a try.
Yeah.
Just sort of believe
Well, you
in
have
it.
an awesome
do
place
it.
to hang out, so
Thank you. I know.
it's
Yep.
fantastic.
Yeah, I think it's coming along. I
Yeah.
really do. People ask all the time, "What's your typical client like?" And I don't have a typical client. I get everybody under the sun in here.
Yeah.
Babies, people, little kids, school kids, teenagers.
Well, and your employees are delightful. by the
They
way.
are fantastic.
They are
Yeah.
the happiest. And
They're
I mean,
really
from
good.
the second you
Yeah.
walk in, they have they're
Charisma
so
on demand.
inviting.
It's like
They do.
And it's
They're
so
good. I'm
real.
lucky.
It's so real.
They're very genuine.
So,
they are.
yeah.
Yeah. Well, they can speak to their own age group, which is 20s. They're very good with older clients and even grandparents and whatnot. They're super great with the family. It's just they're good.
They have cool
pleasant.
stories
Yeah.
too. We already heard the submarine.
Yeah.
It's been, I'm like,
I know.
you
Oh.
should sit down. Let me
I
talk to you
know.
about 11 months on a
On
submarine.
a submarine.
Under the North Pole.
Exactly.
Really?
And he's also been a logger. So
Oh my
I know.
gosh.
And he himself
You can
is
just sit here all
is a
day
chef.
and
I know,
talk
he's a
about-
fascinating kid, and he's just
Yeah.
one of I have 6 basically full-time employees that each one of them has an amazing story. It's so fun. It is so fun.
cool.
So I found out through doing this business that there is it's generational attitudes towards work.
Oh,
I can speak to Abe's generation. Abe, you seem to be a
Yeah.
bit of a novel. But there is an interesting dynamic going on now where people aren't as driven to find their career job as they are to have experiences.
Mm-hmm.
So sometimes when I interview people, or they've worked for me for a while, they come to me and say, I have a kind of a timeline that I'll probably be here about a year, and then I'm going to go on. I have this goal to travel to Indonesia and become a monk, or I'm going to go to the Northwest and practice forestry or something. I have experiences I have to go have. So while I will work for you hard and loyal, I will be there, but I will be going. This is not my career stop. So I find that very interesting. I always tried to get myself employed, and I was committed for as long as you'll have me. I was like, I have to have a job, and that was, I hung on to it. This is a generation that believes in themselves, believes in the has a belief in experiences, and that they'll have value.
I feel like people are very much trying to tie meaning to what they're doing.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
You see it
100%.
in branding, you see it in, even like what you wanted in this space.
Yes.
And I think that's probably part of the reason you resonate with your employees, because there is a meaning behind what you're doing. Where were we? Because you were hitting on some interesting stuff.
Yeah.
That whole concept of like, I was bringing you back around from like having grown up here. You say like a single mom living at 13th in Manhattan, like to where we are today. Like the concept of how this town has evolved and the generations that come through here. And
we should almost focus one whole talk on that, because it is really there's a ton that we could talk about that. And I was thinking we should talk a little bit about. We should keep going on this whole generational thing, because I'm fascinated by your age group, but what even more interests me. But like when I was growing up, there was always like the fuck up kids, and then there was the rest of us. Now it's different. It's like there's a whole bunch of this age. Are you You're not millennial. Are you X,
I was
Y?
born in '94.
I don't even know what the
the
labels.
I think you're a millennial.
Yeah, I'm a
But
millennial.
millennials fascinate me because they need a lot of rewarding. They need a lot of recognition for what they're doing. But then there's like these rock star people like you that are so driven and so interesting and so genuine. And then there's these needy, whiny, like pathetic ones. It's so weird. Like it is so fascinating to me, and it's driven on. It's more out of motivation and dedication to hard work. Like there's such a huge difference to me now. Whereas when I was growing up, it was just you were either a fuck up or you were just normal. Like it wasn't these really distinct things. There was, and often it was related to income. It really was. And it's so interesting. When I grew up here, the coveted property was not the beach. It was inland in the tree section.
Really?
All of the, Poinsettia, Elm, all those streets.
Beautiful neighborhood.
Those were the coveted properties. Nobody wanted to live at the beach. You were considered.
Oh my gosh! The closer I can get to the water, the better.
It was so weird because there was no kids down there. There was no homes down here. It was odd for a single woman to move two young children to a house on the beach. It was just not. It wasn't considered like family oriented. Now it's like, oh my God, if you could only get a piece of property, down at the beach in Manhattan. Yeah. It's billionaires and people who are never here.
Right. Yeah. I know.
But anyway, we could talk a lot about.
Well, and you're raising. You have a 17-year-old. So do you? I watched. I have a almost 17-year-old son, 16. I have an 18-year-old daughter. Okay. And a 13 and a.
Oh.
So they're all over the place. But the
Holy smokes!
The whole teenage concept of what they see around them. Looking up to Abe's just enough older. Like that generation, like that. They see him going to college or coming out of college or whatever they're doing. What inspires them. But I think, to me, it always comes back to having that meaning behind it. And for my kids, I always say, like, if they can know why I do what I do, or, you know, I tie things back to, you know, what's important, like the value that's important behind what I do, right? But it does seem like, you know, we have this level of these kids that are so stressed out for, like, chill out on that, man. You never get to go back, right? Like,
So
it's like
true.
58 P's and like the grade point averages are like something I had never
They
considered,
didn't
and I'm fine.
exist.
I never took calculus. I never took physics. I'm okay.
And you're gonna,
You know,
so you're gonna
and
make
yeah,
it.
if that's your calling, by all means,
Yeah.
go do it. But like, not everybody's meant for everything, right? And so to find your passion and to say like, you're gonna be okay if you don't go to Harvard, or you know, or you go
Absolutely,
you know, to a J. Like, there's no one way. There's no one path.
Exactly.
But-
And what's fascinating though is that kid is probably, for the most part, being raised by a parent who didn't think that way, or is struggling to that kind of a change in thinking, and is like, no. You know, you got to go to college. You know, you have to get these grades. You have to go to college. My son is not an academic kid. He's also not an athlete. So those were two areas that you were either this one or you were kind of that one, and that's how you got your way in.
Right.
So we've had a lot of thoughts of thinking out of the box.
Right.
What will work for you? What are you interested in? Where will you go? Do you even want, you know, I just
fall
want,
in that place.
I was
I'm not
gonna
an
say.
athlete, and I'm not, well, I'm academic in my own way, right? So like for me,
But
technology
he chooses what he is passionate
but
about.
isn't it fascinating that what you're doing right now didn't even exist?
No, look,
Right?
when
You
I was
know,
13, I made my first computer, and like it all kind of evolved from there. It was all technology based and like.
And when there wasn't even computers didn't even exist when we were in school. That had not even been invented yet, and certainly not the internet. Think about the way that's changed
I got all
our
my
lives.
knowledge.
Is fascinating.
I used to get all my knowledge from books, right? And then all of a sudden it evolved to video, and then as soon as I saw that, I was like, that's my hand. It's like this is.
I can make this.
I can
Yeah,
make
that
like,
must have felt unbelievable to click.
well, it's
something
like, but
clicked.
see, it doesn't click until you like go through every pattern of like, look at all the like I've made investments over investments. I'm like, I live for telling stories that are not mine, because you know I've lived a fulfilling life. I was talking to the guy at the bank the other day, and he was like, in 2.5 months, you've done more than I've done here in 5 years. And I'm like, what? It's not that I'm like, I'm not hyperactive or anything. I just move.
You have your thing. It's your thing, and so that's what's fascinating to work with this closely with a group of people who are in a job that, and let's be very honest, probably no one is going to be a waiter or a waitress for the rest of their life. At least this group of people, they're interesting. When I would work at the hospital, though, yes, I would work with younger girls who were new nurses. They're going to probably stay and be a nurse. But I'm exposed to a group of people who are interested in interacting with the public. They know they need to earn an income. They want to be able to travel. They want to be able to have something that's fun. They want to have fun at work. It's really different, and it's kind of interesting. I fought it for a little while in the beginning, like, why aren't they more like organized and why can't they get it like set on a schedule?
But that's how you got what you got, right? I mean, you showed up at a certain time. You had, and you knew you had to get certain things done, and you compartmentalized, and you looked for that next step that got you. Which there's a lot to be said for that route.
There is. It's just opportunities are different now. They truly are. They're amazing. And I believe that it's possible my kid will end up being in a career that doesn't even exist yet.
Right.
Because watching you guys have that experience is pretty amazing. Pretty amazing. I mean, I think about, the lack of the internet and the cell phones and all things that I couldn't get through a day without it.
But
so I think
somehow
right
you
now,
still have to have like the things that you taught, like and learned growing up, like discipline and consistency and those things, because you'll never get to where he is, and being able to have that freedom without also having the discipline, right? So it's balancing those things. And coming back and saying, I'm going to keep, okay, so people don't show up on the first date. That doesn't mean you fail. Right? Like, because there's so much instant gratification in their generation that, like, I always joke that my kids, if I'm not there, they give me about 2 minutes before they're like, where are you? It's like, I stopped at the light.
Yeah.
I'll be there, you know,
I know.
like, you know, I mean, it's okay, you know?
So
There's,
true.
Like this, whereas we
It's
used
so
to have
true.
to, like, kind of make it work a little bit
Yeah.
longer and be more, a
Yeah.
little more patient. So
true.
Yeah.
It is fascinating. I try not to worry about my son.
Yeah.
For
That's
all
the
the,
same,
because
yeah.
I jokingly say because there's enough moms already worried about you. Like
Right.
all my girlfriends are worried about him. I'm like, you guys got it. He'll be fine. Literally, I don't have
Yeah.
to worry about you. They've got it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think that as a mom, that's a pretty good, healthy
Well, I
perspective.
think you and I have something
Yeah.
to share with other moms because
Yeah.
if they could just take a breath and
Oh,
say,
gosh.
it's going to be
It's
okay.
gonna be okay.
It's gonna be okay.
Even if you don't go to the Ivies,
Yeah.
even if you don't go to college, like, and it's not to say, like,
Yeah.
but I do have one where I'm like, we're gonna figure out your
Yeah.
path. Like the others, you can kind of see,
Uh-huh.
like maybe we'll be a little more traditional.
Uh-huh.
But if they, you know, like that fourth one opened me up to the idea of like, oh, I see.
Interesting.
Okay, now it actually teaches me something about the first three, who could be a very traditional
Uh-huh.
path, but you know, if something happens, if something,
Wow, that
one taught me, we roll with
Yeah.
it, you know, and we figure it out, and as long as they're being allowed to discover themselves and find out what their passion is, it works out.
It works
You know?
out. It totally works out.
Yeah.
If I'm not living proof of it, the one thing that will always
Yeah.
be the same is it'll change.
Yeah.
That's the one thing you
Change
can
is the
count
only
on.
constant.
It's always
Yeah.
going to
Yeah.
change. And I would, if you asked me 2 years ago if I was going to open a restaurant after I retired from nursing, I would have laughed in your
Crazy.
face.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, it's worth coming down. This place is amazing. I had a feeling the first time I walked by. So, thanks for talking to me.
Oh, my pleasure. Thanks.
It's Halloween at Homies, and we did our first podcast here today with Kelley, the owner. Got so much of her story about how this place came to be, the generational stories of Manhattan Beach. She grew up here. Loved talking to her about old Manhattan Beach, coming to modern day Manhattan Beach, and this space. Come see it if you haven't. It's amazing. It's homey. We covered so many topics. Ozzy Osbourne came in. Not really, it's Halloween, but he was a longtime business owner on Manhattan Beach Boulevard. We just talked about raising kids. We talked about when struggles happen early in a business. We talked about doubting yourself, pushing through that. So much initiative. She's a woman with a huge amount of initiative and purpose and drive. And she used to be an oncology nurse, a pediatric oncology nurse. I mean, the stories that people have that you don't even know are there until you ask, that's what I'm so fascinated with. That's where the generational learning comes in. She's raising a 17-year-old son. I have an almost 17-year-old son. There are just so many things that we connected on. And she was a joy to talk to. We want to do it again and cover, I don't know, just it's so strange. Like, you don't even know you have things in common with people until you ask. And yeah, we could have sat and talked all day. So if you haven't checked out Homies, come in. The food's great. The atmosphere is amazing. Beer and wine, best cappuccinos. It's fabulous. And you can shop too. It's just the cutest sourcing of like just stuff you want in your home, hoodies, everything. So yeah, come in, check out Homies, and what a great spot.